Welcome to the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast, your main resource for 2QB fantasy insights, smart bets, and winning props. Hosted by Fab, Knack, and Raj.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Guys, the off-season onslaught is here. But you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm a little bit too excited. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us. We appreciate you guys being on board with us and coming along with this journey. So please follow, like, share, subscribe to all of our social medias. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook to a degree. Obviously Spotify, Apple Music. You see us on there. Interact with us, chat us up, send us a message. We'll answer you, no problem. We want to make sure that we interact with our fans at all times. So with that being said, now let's get into some fun stuff. The off-season. Not everyone is always excited about the off-season because, the NFL season is done with and all that stuff. But I don't know, man. Combine preview. Combine's happening this week as of Feb 23rd to March 3rd. The biggest players in this in the fantasy draft are going to be on display. Well, we would hope, at least. We're going to get into that a little bit later. A big day to take note of is Saturday, March 1st. That's where you have the on-field workout for running back, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. So the underwear Olympics are in full swing. But apart from that, we got February 18th to March 4th. So we are still in this period right now. It's a league transition and franchise tag windows. We've been talking quite a bit about some players that potentially will be designated the franchise tag. We spoke about T. Higgins last week. So that window is still very much open up until March 4th at 4 p.m. And then we got the really spicy stuff. We got the tampering window from March 10th to March 12th, which, Knack, I'm going to throw this on to you right now. So for some of our viewers, can you explain, because you're more of the specialist when it comes to this type of stuff. You got you got all the information right on your hand over there. So the tampering window, give us a quick little rundown as to what that is.
Yeah, so I think they added this a little while ago because there was obviously tampering going on while in free agency. So now they've kind of made it legal for a couple days. So teams can now start talking to players who are free agents a couple days before the actual free agency starts. So they could talk to a number of free agents. This actually gives kind of an advantage, I guess, to the teams that still hold their rights for 2 days, because maybe they could kind of know what they're being offered or what contracts look like, and then the actual team can make a last little push to kind of sign their guy. But yeah, it's basically exactly how it sounds. Tampering. They will ask free agents, or they'll try to sign basically free agents or try to offer them contracts, but the contracts cannot be signed until March 12th at 4 p.m.
That's correct.
But
And
they always start trickling in, right?
Yeah.
You always hear
Yeah.
the contracts, and
I think
that's when the new league starts.
The NBA has had this for a while, where like there's a period where you can talk to free agents, and then a few days afterwards, that's when you could officially sign. I don't know if the NHL has done that as well, but it's been pretty prevalent in the NBA for a while.
The NHL, I feel like all the news comes out on July 1st, right? Because that's
yeah, but they do. They added, the NHL has added that as well. The tampering. There's a 2-day window where they can tamper. So it's just being able to put contracts in place, and then obviously you have all the insiders that come out with all of this news because they hear that they are going to sign the contract. But in some cases they are wrong. They do come out wrong, and like someone ends up changing their mind, and I guess that's what the tampering period is for. And I'm sure a lot of news comes out to try to force the hand of the team that you're already playing for as well.
For sure. While we're on the subject of definitions, I just want to provide one quick definition of the combine. So the combine, it dates back to, I think, the early 80s, where it wasn't the underwear Olympics as we know now. It was a way to regroup all the prospects in one location to do all the medicals combined with interviews as well. So only recently has it turned into like the spectacle that it is, where let's just start doing drills now. So that's a little wrinkle that I hadn't known for only a few years now.
And that's Roger's thought of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Get that up.
But one thing I do want to mention about the tampering window, thank you for that, Roger. That was actually very insightful. I think now we understand why the word combine is involved in this.
It should
for
be
the
the
tampering window,
combine, not
yeah.
the combine. The
Well,
combine.
Americans like to mispronounce anything. Oh boy. Well, who said that? We love our American viewers. Thanks for listening. The one thing I did want to mention
State.
last year, the Giants had the Hard Knocks right in the offseason, and I know it was a fiasco. We're not going to talk about like what actually transpired, but what I did like though is how they really provided an inside look on what happens during the tampering era, during during the free agent signing window, having that portal up on the GM screen where he submits the contract and he submits the offer and all that stuff. I thought that was really cool because it gives you a firsthand look on actually what happens, because we would have never been able to see that like apart from that, right? So that's interesting.
And
But
also gave us a look at firsthand on what not to do with your star players.
I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know what you're referring to. So March 12th at 4 p.m., the new league year starts and all this free agent signings become official. So that's super exciting. So the next few weeks are going to be mega into news, mega into player signings, new contracts being signed, potentially trades happening, which we're going to touch on a little bit later on. But in addition to all the other potential news that's going to come out right now, so actually the Jacksonville Jaguars hired a new GM, which everyone might be like, okay, whatever, the Jaguars. But they hired the former Rams director of scouting, James Gladstone. And I've never heard of this guy before. I had to Google his name. He spent the last 8 years in various GM related positions with the Rams. He helped construct a playoff contender without any first round picks from 2017 to 2023. The last time the Rams had a first round pick prior to 2024 was Jared Goff in 2016, which is wild. So,
F them picks.
yeah, I guess so, right? It
Yep,
works.
exactly.
So are the Jags, Raj, are the Jags about to turn around a little bit with a new offensive minded head coach and a young GM? Because this kid's 35 years old. And yes, I call him a kid because now we're older than general managers in the NFL. That's where we are in our life. Raj?
I don't know. Like he said, I don't know much about this guy. Like, to be honest, like as you're doing your monologue about him, I'm like trying to find any research I can. Wasn't he the get back guy? Wasn't he the guy who was supposed to hold McVay back from going to the sideline? I thought I saw that.
I know who you're
It's like
talking about. I don't think it's the same person though.
no, eh? They just have the same haircut or that same kind of douchey look. I
Tell us
think
how you
it's
really
going to
feel.
look like the Jaguars have a ton of work to do. They have to fix the offensive line. They got to fix Trevor Lawrence. They got to figure out what they got to do with the running back situation. Their secondary was awful. I think they were one of the worst secondaries in the league. So there's a ton for them to do. I don't recall. I believe they have a top 8 pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Pick number 5 right now.
Pick number 5.
Pick number 5.
Pick number 5, Tankathon has them taking Mason Graham. D-line, they could go D-line, they could go Will Johnson, cornerback. I think they have a lot of work to do. I don't think this guy's tenure in Jacksonville is going to be kind of dictated by what they do in year one. I think if they go in the realm of, maybe trading down, that'll be interesting. But if you worked for Les Snead, if you worked with the Rams, as Nak said, F them picks. Right?
Yeah.
They would trade picks to get key players. I just don't think that's the strategy for them to go with now, considering how weak the talent pool is on the team.
So I'll take it one step further. He's not going to have to go and get out, but I mean, yes, F them picks, and they always traded their first rounders, but the Rams always drafted really, really well. So I think having that experience in that Rams front office, I think is definitely going to help. I think the Jaguars have missed on a lot of draft picks in the last few years. No one that's coming into fruition. I know they've traded a lot of players, especially first round picks that they've had. They've released some guys, so maybe getting a guy young minded, worked like you said with less need, and coming from a really good Rams team who knows how to draft, I think it's definitely going to benefit them. But to your point, Raj, they have a lot of work to do, and they're not one pick away from becoming a contender anytime soon.
No, they're definitely not one pick away. That's for sure. But I don't know. I'm slightly optimistic when it comes to this GM hire. I like the fact that it's the guy's younger. He's very young, but I like the fact that despite his age, he still has we talk about a body of work, right? He has a body of work in a GM-related position with, for all accounts, a very well-run organization in the LA Rams, right? I mean, they've been able to trade all those picks and still have a stacked roster and get guys in the later rounds that have been contributing members to that football team. So this might be exactly what the Jaguars need. It's a real jolt in the arm. It could be a shock in the organization. I don't know. It could be something interesting to watch.
Body of work. He has a nice haircut. I thought that's where you're going.
Sure. I mean, yeah, but let's move on. So the Saints, the Saints also hired Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator, former head coach of the Chargers, pairing Brandon Staley with now Doug Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, who was the father of Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback. I'm sorry, am I mispronouncing it probably?
Nussmeier.
Yeah, I was going to say, did Fab get one right? And then he doubled down too.
I said Nussmeier.
Not quite.
Not quite. Well,
close enough.
So the offensive coordinator. Do you think this is a foreshadowing of what the Saints could be drafting next year? When Garrett Nussmeier does actually come into the draft, and I mean already the fact that they're both in the Louisiana state could be interesting as well, right? He stays very close to his son. Maybe I'm connecting dots. Snack, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. They have to figure out what they're doing first with Derek Carr before any drafting QB situation comes of that. I guess. Look, if you want to tie that together, then I'll say sure. Like I'm sure there's a world where his father will look to want him to join the team, but just bringing up Brandon Staley for a second. I know we've talked about it in the past. Not sure on the pod, but I know we've talked about it in the past how we all liked him as a coordinator and not a head coach. He's not a guy who could take on the whole team, but I think great hire for defensive coordinator, especially from what was left out there, which is kind of nothing. All the coaches have been kind of signed all over the place. So I think it's a solid hire. And then you have, Kellen Moore as the head coach. I think they're, again, another team that has to figure their identity out a little bit. And I think they're putting the right people into place. I just hope it doesn't, turn into a Vegas situation where, your roster and your coordinator, everything is going great. And then you kind of forget about the QB position.
Yeah, and I think I don't think Brandon Carr is going to be honest with you, I've been reading about him being a cap casualty when the season starts up.
Or Derek, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I said Brandon Carr. I saw Brandon Staley over here. Guys, listen, I'm 0 for 2. We're rocking and rolling over here. Yeah, so Derek Carr actually might be a cap casualty, so that could be. I mean, it makes you wonder what the Saints are going to do from a QB position because all they have is Spencer Rattler and Derek Carr on the roster right now from a QB perspective.
And Jacob Haney. Doug Nussmeier played for the Saints from 1994 to 1997.
You mean Nussmeier?
I mean Nussmeier. I mean Nussmeier. Man, Staley, I don't know, man. Like that tenure with the Chargers was as bad as it gets, and then he was not good last year with the Niners. That defense took a major step down. Granted, there was a lot of injuries. There was a lot of I think Greenlaw was out for a while.
A lot of injuries.
Yeah, Jarius Ward, I think he was dealing with passing of unfortunately his one of his children.
Yes.
And it's going to be interesting. Saints play a lot of man coverage. They're typically a man coverage team. Staley plays more cover too, so they might have to make some changes on the defensive roster on that front. So the Staley hire, I know, honestly doesn't excite me that much. For Carr, during Kellen Moore's introductory press conference, he sounded complimentary of Carr, but also non-committal. I think they have no choice but to start with him for the year. I think it's his last year, though. I can't imagine them going forward after this year. I don't have the cap numbers in front of me, but there has to be. I would assume there'd be an out after 3 years, as typical for all these QB deals.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with that at all, and I don't think Derek Carr is going to be playing for the Saints for much longer after this year. Speaking of other coordinator hires. So the Eagles hire the new offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. He's a former pass game coordinator with the Eagles since 2021. So an in-house hire, an in-house promotion, if you want to call it that. Roger, what do you think as far as an impact is concerned for Jalen Hurts? I know we spoke quite a bit about how he really took a step forward this year from a passing perspective and sort of silenced a lot of his critics. Do you expect more of the same?
Yeah, I think what they did here is they just went with the guy already in house to ensure that they kind of keep that stability, make sure that whoever comes in there knows that you have to run through Saquon Barkley, play action, deep shots to AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. The formula is there. There's really no need to mess with it. I personally probably would have preferred an out of the box hire just to keep things fresh. Sorry, out of the team hire, but I have no issues with this otherwise.
Would you have potentially tried to call Mike McCarthy for OC?
Stylistically, I don't know that would make sense because Mike McCarthy is more of a like traditional West Coast offense, like 3-step drop timing, which is not necessarily Jalen Hurts' game.
Hmm.
And I think Mike McCarthy is going to hold out for more head coaching roles.
Yeah, for sure.
I
For
agree.
sure.
I think this was the right move, to be honest, especially after Jalen Hurts went through 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years. Give the guy a little bit of stability. Like you
Well,
would
he's
imagine that,
he's 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 doing it again, right? Isn't it?
yeah,
Isn't it 4 in 4 years?
10th different coordinator since high school.
Yeah, but this is 4 in 4 years now, right? That he's
yeah,
had.
Every year,
Really?
this is the fourth, I think.
Yeah.
This is the fourth, but this is probably the one that has the most likeness from the previous one, right? Since it's an in-house hire.
Mhm.
So I think this makes a little bit more sense as far as continuity is concerned. And last piece of news: Dallas offensive lineman Zach Martin officially announced his retirement. Without a doubt, first ballot Hall of Fame. He has less holding penalties than he has Pro Bowls, which is a statistic that blows my mind to this day. 9 Pro Bowl selections and 6 holding penalties. You got to give it up for Zach Martin.
That's crazy.
You know what? You know what's another? As I was reading up this stat, I saw another one, and you guys probably know this, so it was new to me. Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles than he does dropped catches.
Yep. One of those is against James Harrison in the Super Bowl.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't even know if that counts as a tackle, actually,
I
pick
think we're
six.
because he made it to the end zone.
We're 18 minutes in. That's our first Steelers callback.
17 minutes.
How long was that pick six?
100 yards.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That James
Longest
Harrison.
play in Super Bowl history.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I was every time I see highlights of it, my jaw still drops. It's
yeah.
like the craziest play, like just the
A guy
players
that
going after him and like
a guy that big shouldn't have a pick six, 100-yard pick six.
no.
That's crazy.
And all right, so that was the news and notes for this week, guys. Now we're gonna jump into some interesting fire questions for this week. So I mean, on the same theme of what is the NFL combine, well, however Roger
Combine.
wants to pronounce it.
Combined.
There's a few rookies that we expect to make a splash at the NFL Combine, and even when they make their when they get drafted by their new team. I want to ask you guys, Roger. I'm going to start with you. Which rookies would you think would make the biggest fantasy impact, depending on which team would draft them?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Genty, just because where he gets drafted is probably in an area where, like middle of the first round. So maybe he goes Cowboys. Maybe he goes Broncos. I've seen Broncos and Cowboys quite a bit, and those are teams, especially the Broncos. They just made the playoffs, and despite what we think about the Cowboys, they're not that far off. Tremendous player, Heisman Trophy winner, low compact to the ground, crazy contact balance, crazy amount of broken tackles. I think 2,900 yards, 29 TDs.
I think he was the Heisman runner-up, though.
Yes.
Heisman. Did I say Heisman winner?
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Heisman runner-up. Thank you for correcting. Heisman runner-up. I think he can have a major first year, depending on where he goes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like the Broncos a lot, actually. I think they need help in the running game. I feel like the Cowboys have sort of dug their heels into the running game right now, even though it's not a big star. But I think the Broncos can definitely use
And
a top end running back, and Genty is definitely it.
And I believe Javonte Williams, he is a UFA at the end of the year. So
Yeah, I think that experiment is. I think that experiment is over.
Yeah.
I've also been reading. I've also been reading that if he drops to 21, somehow the Steelers will be like forced to take him. Like they'll be in a. They'll be like, okay, we got to take this guy at 21.
that would be a bad use of assets, in my opinion. Like you already have
One,
Jalen.
Yes.
one,
Yes. 100%.
100%. I'm just, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Knack, what about you?
Chargers could be interesting. Sorry if Chargers could be
Sorry.
interesting depending. J.K. Dobbins, the free agent too. Depending on what happens with our boy league winner J.K. Dobbins, that could be an interesting one too. Depending on how much he plans on commanding. But I think there's a lot of interesting options for Genty.
There's a lot of interesting running backs in general in this draft this year that you can get some really solid players on day 2 and day 3 that'll be like immediate contributors to your team. It's not just Genty and that's it. Like he's
It's a
Genty and
loaded
that's it.
class. It's a
Yeah.
loaded class.
Yeah, like last year was very much loaded on wide receivers, right? We spoke about that a ton last year. This year, I feel like running backs are coming back with a bit of a surge. Knack, what about you?
Yeah, Genty was my like the easy answer one for sure. Like everyone has him as like probably the guy who's gonna have like the most. But I think Emeka Ibuka
Mm-hmm.
is also gonna have a good fantasy impact. Plays mostly in the slot, but has great size and skill. He's an amazing route runner, so that's your quarterback's best friend. And I feel like slot receivers kind of break in a little bit quicker. In the NFL. And we saw how a slot receiver like Lad McConkey helped the Chargers and became, Herbert's best friend, especially going down the year. And I think I compare him a bit more because of his size to JSN.
Yeah,
I think he has a really nice comparison to him. And like I know it took him a few years to kind of break out, or a couple of years to break out, but I think he could definitely have some fantasy impact depending on, again, a wide receiver needy team that goes to grab him. He likely goes in the first round as well, depending where he drops, depending on what teams I saw a lot of the Rams. You saw a lot of
Tankathon has
obviously.
him on Chargers, but I don't think that's a good fit with.
Yeah, I don't know if they won up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I know the Steelers are obviously mentioned because they need a wide receiver, but. And then obviously honorable mention to Tyler Warren. I think he comes in
Yeah.
and probably smashes this year as well. Looking honestly, it'd be really nice if he landed would be the Colts. I think that would be a crazy fit.
That's where he's mocked, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with it. Like they could definitely use a good tight end, maybe help out Anthony Richardson as well a little bit. I don't know if you'll have the fantasy impact that Brock Bowers had, but potential to do
different
something special as
players.
well. Yeah, for sure.
They have a Penn State in their tight ends, man. They know how to produce him.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking. Yeah. I was looking at Ted McMillan. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name. Wide receiver out of Arizona.
Try.
I'll give it a shot. I'm breaking the matrix. Teshora?
What'd you call me?
Tetara? Tetaroya?
Tetaroya.
Is that how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's a Tetaroya. Tetaroya.
Tetaroya.
That's
Roya McMillan.
Those are some bad words in different languages. But it's gonna be a favorite in the bush league. I can already see it. I can already see some people throwing in. I got Tetroya McMillan. Tetroya McMillan. I'm mispronouncing the R.
That's what I'm calling my fantasy name next year.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Tetroya.
Tetroya McMillan. Yeah. So he's actually being mocked to the Panthers, which would really help Bryce Young quite a bit. He's not going to drop this far, and I know we mentioned the Chargers already, but I would see him he's that prototypical X receiver that Justin Herbert would really thrive with. I feel like, I mean, obviously would complement Lad McConkey perfectly. Yeah, like I see Shadur Sanders also really really having from a fantasy perspective, because this is more of a fantasy question than anything else, going to the Raiders. I know it's not a sexy pick. I know it's not super exciting, but just having Jacoby Meyers there, and obviously having Brock Bowers, those two studs on the outside, and Sanders has been known for having obviously excellent accuracy, and like Cam Ward called him out on the other on one clip I saw on YouTube. How'd you win the accuracy award for throwing bubble passes the whole time? Yeah, Raj.
I like there's some competition between them.
Yeah, no, they've
McMillan's,
been going back and forth whenever they showcase their skills, and they
yeah,
like it's a healthy,
mutual respect.
yeah, it's really healthy. It's good.
McMillan might be too X receiver for some blood. I've seen some comp to T Higgins, big guy. I get like Kenny Galladay vibes though, because it
Mm,
sounds like he can't really separate very well. So I think like once you
Interesting.
start looking at like some of the tape and some of the highlights to see, what his strengths and weaknesses are, I think it'll be interesting to see what type of player, what type of team he goes to.
Very good point. So I guess it's going to be very interesting to see where these guys do end up getting drafted, and I think we're 58 days away from the NFL draft, and it's going to come very quickly. We're going to move on to our next point over here. So, Shadur Sanders, we just spoke about a little bit right now. He's not expected to participate in the combine, but will throw at his pro day and all that stuff. Just found out that Ashton Jeanty also won't be participating in the combine as well. So it's not news. A lot of players have not participated in the combine in the past. Nak, I want to get your idea. Does this hurt their stock? Does it make a difference? Do people care?
it's becoming more and more of a trend, I feel, every year. Last year we saw a lot of it, but again, it's with those top guys that didn't even need a pro day to kind of just go do their thing. Like they knew they were going to get drafted. I think a player like Shadur, where there's a little like you're not for sure going in the top 10, like you probably are. But I mean, look, he's going to be banking on a solid pro day, right? I think the combine, to Roger's point earlier, like it's not the end all be all of everything. I think if he does fumble on his pro day, that could drop his stock a little bit. But I don't know. I feel like this is nothing. Like he's more players are doing this, more players that are being drafted and or figure to be drafted in the first round. As long as he does his pro day and shows out, I don't know. I don't have a problem with it, and I don't think it's huge news, to be honest.
So
Totally.
I was reading that a lot of analysts were looking for Sanders to throw at the combine. That way, it can give him that leg up between 1 and 2, and like from the quarterback standing, and also to see exactly how he can throw versus receivers that he's not necessarily comfortable with. That he doesn't have a lot of history with, because the receivers that he had at Colorado were the guys he was playing with the whole time. Because I feel like there's such an opinion on Sanders right now, and it's I think people are just looking for any possible reasons to either go against the trend or not, and say that he's not throwing because he's not comfortable with the guys he's throwing with, so he's only going to do it the pro day, so he's going to look good because he's not even there's such a polarizing opinion on this quarterback right now as far as where he should be drafted and what like round rank he's getting. A lot of people are even saying he's not deserving of a first round pick. But then again, considering the fact that quarterback in the landscape being what it is, teams are going to draft because they need a quarterback, right? So I wanted him to throw, to be honest with you, to buck that trend, that to say the naysayers, like I can still do it no matter what. But I guess we'll see.
I
I'm
don't.
more of the camp of I definitely want them to throw as well. But like look at the guys who didn't throw, like Matt Ryan, Matthew
Yeah,
Stafford,
well, that's it.
Tim Tebow didn't throw, you know.
Well,
So
Caleb
Yeah,
Williams last year.
Caleb Williams,
yeah,
Menzel
but
didn't
again,
throw.
Case again, when you're talking about Caleb Williams, Matt Ryan, like you're talking about players that were like the predominant number one guy,
Yeah.
right? Like they were like the guy. They knew they were going to go one. He could have screwed up at his combine and at his pro day, and he likely still would have gone one.
So I'll give you what like Ryan Tannehill, and I remember he was a converted wide receiver at A&M. They converted him from wide receiver to QB. and he didn't even throw. So the thing with the pro days, and you were mentioning it, Knack, is they build the pro days in such a way that the QBs can't even fail. So like I imagine him on his pro day, everything's gonna be super structured. There's no
Yeah.
chance he's gonna fail whatsoever. But the point of like, hey, I want to see him throw with guys that he's not used to. Well, like during training camp, you're gonna get used to your teammates.
Yeah,
You're
100%.
gonna start throwing with people that
True.
you're gonna have that chemistry with. So even that
Guys,
argument,
at the end of the day, every time you draft a QB, it's a coin flip. It's either he's going to be good or he's going to be, mediocre or bad. Like it's just a coin. No one knows anything until these guys step onto the field at the NFL level and prove it. You know,
totally.
and then there's those guys where you draft late. It hurts, second round pick. Lamar Jackson, 32nd overall pick. Like Russell Wilson, once upon a time, third round pick. Dak Prescott was a fourth round pick. Like you just never know, or third round pick. You just never know with these guys. Like you're flipping a coin. It is a weaker class, so that coin ends up being a little bit more rich when you're flipping it at the top of the mountain that it is now, especially from a QB needy team point of view. But again, I don't care. For me, it's like, yeah, of course, you'd rather him obviously go through the drills and throw and whatever. But if he doesn't, like, whatever.
And I don't think Cam Ward's going to be throwing either. So the point's a little bit moot.
He shouldn't.
No,
No.
I don't think he needs
Yeah,
to. No, I don't think he needs to. But yeah, so that goes back to our point, right? Does it make a difference? Most likely not. But speaking of Cam Ward, so according to reports, the Cleveland Browns are expected to sign Kirk Cousins as a free agent if they can't draft Cam Ward. So right now, the Cleveland Browns are drafting second overall. I guess the assumption is that Tennessee is going to take Mr. Miami U. If Cousins is expected to be released by the Falcons in March as well. So if this actually happens, comes to fruition, right? The Browns actually end up signing Kirk Cousins. Is this stock up or down for the Browns' skill positions? And where do you see Kirk Cousins being drafted next year in fantasy drafts, Raj?
Stock down and QB3. Case closed.
Mic drop it, baby.
All right, we'll move on to the next question.
Honestly,
I mean-
though, I'm still trying to figure out. Like, first of all, he's got to be potentially released, and if he is released, he's got to want to sign in Cleveland. Not everyone wants to go to Cleveland to play football. I'm sure he'll find a job. He could find a job somewhere else. And
Will he? You think so? Like,
I'm
look at all
sure.
the
I'm
QB.
sure.
You
I'm
look at all
sure
the.
if he's. I'm
Nah,
sure if he's.
Stefanski, it's the Stefan. You remember Stefanski coached him in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's true.
That's
You're right.
probably the main
You're right.
reason.
And he would obviously sign for a cheaper rate because there's going to be a lot of money coming to him anyways. But I think to Rogers' point, like it moves zero needle. It helps zero skill positions on the team. And yeah, he finished as what, QB 21 last year and looked pretty bad towards the end of the season. And QB 21 is a stretch because he had two games that were great
Yeah,
against
exactly.
Tampa Bay, where he
Not the
scored 10
Tampa game.
touchdowns. And like, yeah, going to the Browns, you're not playing Tampa next year, buddy. So if he finished QB 25 next year, I'd be shocked with the Browns. So
He's going to be under a lot of pressure in that division.
and he had arguably way better weapons in Atlanta than he is when coming to Cleveland.
Oh, he's unarguably he did, especially when we look at tight end, right? You go from Kyle Pitts to David Njoku, like it's basically a drop off the planet. Eh, Roger? I mean, my goodness.
Guys, but
I read somewhere that Kyle Pitts is due for a bounce back year this year. I want to get your 2 cents on that.
What is it? Is it 2022 all
Stock
over again
down.
or what?
Stock down.
Yeah, this is the no-brainer, stock down. And if you want to draft Kirk Cousins as your QB2 next year, you go right ahead.
Yep. So continue on the same trend of quarterbacks. So Matthew Stafford has been approved by the Rams to seek a trade. So a lot of teams are expected to be interested, but the Giants, the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Browns, they really keep on coming up. Knack, out of those four, which one is the best fit? Which team makes the most sense for Matthew Stafford?
Look, first I'm gonna say I think this is all smokescreen. I think Stafford isn't going anywhere. I think the Rams are kind of doing the same thing that the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. Hey, we put the transition tag on you. Go out and see if you could find a better offer. If someone offers you a fully guaranteed contract, and who's going to trade draft capital for you. So in this scenario, that's what's got to happen. Someone's got to pay a draft capital for Matthew Stafford, and someone's got to pay him. Reportedly, he wants $50 million a year, which he's more than worth. That's fine, but you've got to give up a first or second round pick or more to acquire him, and then give him a 2 or 3 year contract. Plus, he has to also agree to the team he goes to, right? Because he's not going to sign an extension with someone he doesn't want to be traded to. So, which in fact, that team will not then give up the draft capital. In terms of the team that makes the most sense to me, I think it's the Raiders. If I'm being honest, they have the most complete team and closest team away from competing with that QB position in place. Plus the fact that all the other teams you mentioned in the Browns, the Giants, and
Steelers.
the Steelers, those are all outdoor cold weather teams. Matt Stafford has not played on a team that does not play in a dome his entire career. So I think the stock goes way down going to any of those teams. And I think the Giants, Steelers, and Browns are not a QB away from the promised land either, right? And I think the Raiders are the closest to that. I believe they're probably going to add a few more pieces this year as well. Pete Carroll coaching. I think if the best fit for me would be the Raiders, but I personally don't think he's going anywhere. I think it's all smokescreen.
Roger.
I think Max said it perfectly. I don't get why the Rams are trying to break it up with him. Like, I understand there's the snag on money, but considering how well they played in the divisional round against the Eagles, they were just a few plays away.
They were
And
one play away.
One play away, yeah, basically. And the defense showed up and showed out this year. They played unbelievable considering the players that they've lost recently, considering Aaron Donald left as well. I don't find that they're far off if you look at the landscape of the NFC West. So because of that, I just don't see him leaving. And I've been a firm believer that he seems like he's fully entrenched to being with the Rams. And I know McVay, like from what he says, when you hear from podcasts or interviews, he loves Stafford. So I think it's all smokescreen as well. And I don't think any of those teams personally fit. Raiders, I think the fit's weird because of the Chip Kelly hire, and they prefer more of an RPO mobile quarterback. If anything, maybe the Steelers makes more sense because they're probably the team that actually looks like they could contend more out of all those four. But I think he's staying a Ram.
Yeah, I find it weird too, to be honest with you, for all the points you guys just mentioned as well. Like, maybe the Rams know something we don't, and they want to get ahead of the curve when it comes to moving on from Matthew Stafford. They don't want to do sooner rather than later. But I don't know. I thought it was very weird. I know Peter Schrager, friend of the pod, mentioned that Matthew Stafford is looking for north of $50 million a year, so somewhere around like 55, which I don't think, like you said, Nag, I think that's he's worth every penny of it.
Well, look, Kyler Murray is 10th right now, and he's making 46.5.
Yeah.
So, like, you're telling me Stafford is not worth at least 50?
Oh, 100% he is. 100%
right?
he is. Yep, without a doubt in my mind. Yeah, if I'm the Giants, I would pay him that money for sure. But
That's 10th slotted in average annual value. That's exactly, that makes perfect sense.
yeah, which is fair market value for him.
He would be he would be 10. But I think even if he asks for 52 or 53, like, look at what these players are making above him who've done nothing, right? He's won a Super Bowl.
Deshaun Watson messed it up for everyone.
Oh yeah, of course. That's when the new market started, right? When everyone started going bonkers with these QB
Fab's
numbers.
head is just Deshaun. You mentioned Deshaun Watson. He's just spinning. Like
100%.
He's trying to find something.
Actually, but I did find something. Nothing about Deshaun Watson or Justin Tucker for that matter. We love massages for the reason they're supposed to be meant to assume they are. We do want to.
There it is.
There it is. I saw a tweet online from Cam De Silva. So I'm just going to read it out verbatim because I thought this was super interesting. The Rams hired Alex Van Pelt, who was the Packers QB coach for 4 years when Aaron Rodgers was there. The Giants have hired Chad Hall, who is Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law, as their assistant QB coach. Very interesting.
I think the Rams want the 34th pick from the Giants, and I think potentially a little bit more to get Stafford. Because if the Giants give up the third?
No, they're not giving
or
up the
fourth
third. That's a no.
overall.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I think
yeah.
I
No,
think you guys gotta
I would,
maybe
I
turn
would,
the page on the franchise if they do
I
that.
would,
But
I would revolt as much as I do love Matthew Stafford as an individual and as a quarterback. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful quarterback. I would revolt giving up the third
it's
overall
just the
pick.
thing, like they're not a Matthew Stafford away though. That's like the thing I don't like. Right? Like
No, I
you guys
agree.
tell me,
They're
you guys
not.
are fans, right? You guys see more. Like they're not a Matthew
No,
Stafford away
we
from
need
competing.
we need offensive line help. We need secondary help, both from safety and a cornerback perspective. We need offensive line help. I said it twice because we need a lot of help on the offensive line.
GM help.
Uh,
We need coaching help.
That's
we
the
need
other
coaching
thing too.
help,
He needs to go somewhere where he has the
protection.
strongest offensive line
Yep.
because he is like the probably truest pocket passer left in this league. Who's
Yep.
like true pocket passer and has like 4 rushing yards in a season. So it's like if he's not protected, you can't go
You
to
know
a
what?
team that has a weak offensive line.
You know what's funny is that when they traded Goff for Stafford, the thinking was that Stafford can actually play out of structure and he could move around. But you see what's happened in the last like 2-3 years. Injuries and old age have completely caught up where he cannot play out of structure anymore. He is,
No,
as you said,
No.
he's a pure pocket passer now.
pure pocket passer.
Yeah. Yeah. That would not bode well with the Giants' offensive line right now. Mind you, out of all those 4 teams, the best offensive line is who's? The Browns? Realistically? Maybe the Raiders?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd probably say the
would-
Browns.
Browns offensive line has been very good
Just
lately. The
I
Browns are
don't
not as
see.
bad of a team as like on paper wise. Like
There's no
they're
way his wife is saying yes to Cleveland. There's no way.
realistically, there's no way anybody's wife is saying yes to Cleveland. If including the massage therapist. So if Stafford is playing for another team next year, just if I know the whole thing, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. Fine, whatever. If Stafford is playing for another team next year, where are you drafting Puka Nakua? I know it depends on who the quarterback is, right? But like Raj, you and I have spoken about how Puka's like wide receiver 3 as of right now. If everything stays as is for next year, like you can argue Chase before him. You can obviously argue CD Lamb. Obviously JJ for sure. So like he's wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, no problem.
yeah,
Is it the
doesn't
same?
change. Doesn't change for
Doesn't
me.
change at all.
You know what worries me more is his injury history. That worries me more than his QB. The way he plays, he's going to continuously get injured. I actually fear he's not going to have that long of a career.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
But for me, like for the time being, because he's only 24, 25, I'm not concerned. And I would assume if Stafford isn't there, they're going to at least have some form of a competent passer. But for me, it's Chase, Jefferson, Puka, then CD after what happened this year.
Oh no, I'm not. There's no way I'm putting CD or Puka ahead of CD just yet. But I tend to agree with you. You're drafting him in the first, second, early third round, depending on what kind of fantasy
Bro,
league you're in.
there's no way he's getting third round for Puka. He's going.
If you're in a 2 QB, it could potentially slide. But no, second round. I would say second round.
Yeah, second round.
Second round
is when
realistic.
second
Sure.
round is realistic for Puka. But the only thing I heard is there's rumors of potentially re-signing Jimmy Garoppolo if Stafford leaves to play QB for the Rams.
Is he still your wide receiver 3 if Jimmy Garoppolo is throwing him passes?
Yes. All stars always find a way to produce no matter who the QB is.
And Fab, look at his game. It's catches at the
Screens,
screens, and just running over people.
Yeah.
And he does not need accurate QB play at all.
Perfect. Can't wait for you to draft him.
You're avoiding him.
I'm not avoiding him, but like he's dropping down a peg or 2 for someone who's a little bit safer for me. And I don't have the wide receiver rankings in front of me right now.
Okay, so I want to play a game.
Sure.
Who are you drafting over Puka Nakua?
Okay, let me get the wide receiver list out to him. Hold on a second. So this is all things remaining the same. This is do we go with Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback, or do we go with just Stafford not being the quarterback?
I mean, for your exercise, I feel
whatever you want. Whatever. Just big no Stafford.
Okay, so Justin Jefferson, obviously, CD Lamb. I'm looking at average. I'm looking at contract right now. Chase for sure. He's obviously not up here, and from the contract perspective.
Okay, next.
You might have the wrong. Maybe you have the wrong link. You're gonna miss out on Nico Collins, your boy Nico Collins.
No, I see Nico Collins, and he's very close to Puka. To be honest with you, I know Amon-Ra St. Brown is not a sexy name, but from a safety perspective, he's a safer pick for me than Puka Nacua if Stafford's on the quarterback and like Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing to him.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Like scenarios, but I wouldn't drop him down like to a peg where he would be undraftable. I want to make that clear. I would just err on the side of caution and look for someone that will guarantee me, those 9 receptions a game, those 110 yards, whatever the case may be. And obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of those.
Sounds like Puka Nacua.
Yeah, well, it sounds like Puka Nacua when Stafford's throwing to him. That's my only concern.
I don't know, man. Look at guys like Justin Jefferson. Look at guys like what he's done without a competent quarterback when Kirk Cousins was hurt and he had to play with 3 different quarterbacks. These all-star receivers just find a way to get it done, no matter who the quarterback is. Personally, in my opinion, that's just I don't think to me I don't see him any differently. Would you take Tyreek down like all those years if you didn't have a quarterback? Do you take him down a peg? He was with Tua this year.
Yeah.
Last year, you took him down that much of a peg.
Yeah, Tyreek without Tua is not a barely startable wide receiver. Barely startable.
Yeah,
he's a wide receiver too.
Some respect on Tua. Like he's not Mahomes, but he runs that offense perfectly well. And
yeah,
he's
no. I meant like you would draft him, let's say 2 or 3 rounds later because he didn't have Tua there. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, like where he's going now, like I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros, the early consensus rankings. He's tier 3. He's WR 13. I'm not taking Tyreek anywhere near tier 2. I'm taking Neighbors over Tyreek this year.
Interesting. He was hurt all last year. He had that wrist hand. He was hurt, and he played hurt. Yeah, he's older for sure. He's older for sure. He's definitely older for sure. And
the age
again, your Neighbors. Who did Neighbors have last year?
Yeah, man.
As a QB, who did he have?
100%. Yeah,
it wasn't. And but he balled, right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone is disputing that Puka is not. Yeah, I don't think anyone's disputing that Puka is not an all-star caliber wide receiver. I think it's more of just from a risk perspective, like where do you want your variance to be? Because even Neighbors too. Like, listen, you're talking to a guy who's going to buy his jersey at some point in the future. Like there was a slew of games where he was barely startable, Malik Neighbors, and I'm not saying it's going to happen again next year. Like I hope not, obviously, but you just wonder like
it wasn't too many of those games.
Trust me, I had him. It was more than I like to count. But I don't know, man. Like Puka, like okay, right now he's wide receiver 4, tier 2, whatever. Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing him passes. It's not as if he's going to drop down to like wide receiver 10 for me. Like he's going to go to like maybe 5 or 6 at the very most. I just feel like it needs to be taken into consideration. But then again, you know what? Everyone drafts their own team the way they want to draft
4
it.
or 5 or 6 is the same thing to me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just want to get Nico Collins back on my team. You guy's a stud.
You only have eyes for Brian Thomas Jr. too.
Oh, also, yes, Brian Thomas Jr. I love my LSU wide receivers, man.
LS what?
LSU wide receivers.
Oh, that's what you said.
Okay. So moving on from wide receivers, now we're gonna touch on the running backs right now. So James Dalvin Cook, the brother to Dalvin James Cook. James Cook ain't happy.
Is that real?
That is real.
Yeah,
that is real. So. I swear to God.
Really?
I swear to God.
Wow.
I swear my hand to God. James Dalvin Cook is the brother of Dalvin James Cook.
Wait, that's their names?
Yes. Go Wikipedia.
Why do you think I was shocked?
James Dalvin Cook?
Yes.
That's wild.
That's pretty damn cool, man. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Parents are never going to forget their names. It's perfect. So his current situation, Buffalo Bills running back, he ain't happy. He's currently seeking $15 million on an average annual value from the Buffalo Bills. That would put him in from an average. Hold on a second. I got the numbers in front of me. That would put him second. That would put him second behind Christian McCaffrey. Should the Bills pay him? Raj?
No. How could you after seeing
how can you justify that? Yeah.
Saquon is at 12. Jonathan Taylor, say what you will about him, he's at 14. Josh Jacobs at 12. This is dumbfounded. This has no bearing, in my opinion, to ask for 15. Like, you're not the second best running back in the league, despite the season you had, which is an outlier season. Which we all talked about it, right? We loved the season he had. He played great, but 16 touchdowns, 18, I think 18 total.
18 total.
18 total.
You really think Dalvin James Cook is going to have 18 total touchdowns again?
You had it right the first time.
Yeah.
And I want to say both.
Yeah, man. I think you have exactly what I had written down here. Barkley had double his amount of rushing yards last year. He had slightly over 1,000 yards. He finished with 1,009 yards last year. Okay, 18 TDs. Is he wrong to ask for 15 million? Absolutely not. I would ask for that much money after a
100%.
season as he put up. Should he be paid that as a bill? Absolutely not. And especially how the Bills have proven that they can be not only successful but win games when Josh Allen is in control. Like, they lost players and they still did it. Like, there's no way in hell he's getting $15 million a year. Not in the market.
Henry's making 8.
What?
Derrick Henry's making 8. Like,
yeah.
You out of your gourd.
Out of your gourd.
Ramondre Stevenson's making 9, bro.
But where would you guys put? Where would you? What would make sense for him? Like the 6th spot, like behind around the Josh Jacobs $12 million range, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, well, he'd have to be making at least 11-12 million for sure. He had a better year than Josh Jacobs did.
I would even go like 10.
It has similar.
I will put him around 10. I will put him behind Josh Jacobs because it's an outlier.
If Josh got 12 last year,
yeah,
is up, everything is up, everything goes up, right? The salary is going to go up. I think he gets slotted in that 12.5 to 13 range. I think he gets slotted there. He's for sure got to make
more than Saquon.
Yeah, but the thing is again, you're looking at a contract that's 1 year removed. So what would Saquon get tomorrow, right? He'd get more than 13 million, right?
Saquon
call his 13.5, maybe 14 or 15 million in like today, a year later, right? It's a little bit, it would be inflated.
Sure. So
if he gets Saquon or just under, like I said, that 12.5 to 13 ratio is what I think he probably ends up settling for. I don't think he gets 15.
I think they'd reduce Saquon's deal after this year too. If he has another big year and he stays healthy, I think.
Yeah, they're just going to re-sign him with 1 year left for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if he continues on that trajectory, for sure.
And that's where he maybe commands some type of McCaffrey money. One last payday.
And he deserves every single penny of it. I'm just happy that he won a Super Bowl despite being on the Eagles. He consummate pro, and he deserves it. I got nothing but good things to say about Saquon Barkley. That's right, I said it. I ain't scared to say it. So James Cook. James Dalvin Cook and Dalvin James Cook. Both very good running backs by their own standards. One play for the Vikings, one play. Did you just look it up on Wikipedia? Is that why you're laughing right now? You didn't believe me, huh? You never believed me, Roger.
Never. I did. I'm just trying to think if we that happened with like our siblings. That'd be. I'm dumbfounded by this. This made my day.
Well, and ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've been dumbfounded by this episode. And that's how you segue, boys. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, to listening to us, talk about us rant, share a few laughs. Enjoy the Combine specials that happened this weekend. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe all these videos. We're going to be posting these reels and these shorts on Instagram and TikTok and all the fun stuff that the kids are talking about right now. You can find this episode on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, everywhere you listen to your podcast. If you want us to come through your car radios, don't be shy. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we'll be there every single week like clockwork. So guys, I don't know. Thank you very much for spending time with us. I'm Fabio. That's Roger. That's Knack. And we're out. Roger, cue the music.
I'm not-
He's still freaking out about it. James Alden Cook.
Imagine if your name was Anthony Samantha Nacarado. Samantha Anthony Nacarado.
Yeah, but I mean, for two boys, it's a little different than a boy and a girl. Okay, so do it for your sons.
Theodore Julian Theodore.
Yeah, see, that's not bad. Sounds better than a girl's name,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
right?
Yes, it does.
Guys, Raj is stunned right now.
I'm
100%. We broke the matrix.
I
Good
gotta
night,
go think about
everyone. Peace out.
Goodbye.